This is a hand-carved opal. I carved this opal using a whetstone. And you should see what the whetstone looks like after carving 60 of these little guys. Oh wait, hold on a second, you are going to see it. So I'm going to show you the basic tools and supplies I use for carving opals. And that's a strange way of putting it actually, when what you're doing is sanding the rough opal down until you get all the stuff that's not precious opal removed from the stone. So the main tool we're going to use is a whetstone. So I have a couple different grits of whetstone here and a fine whetstone over here. The black bowl is for water because you'll definitely need to keep wetting down the opal stones. And over here I have a pair of tweezers. These are essential because a polished opal is slippery even when dry. So tweezers are necessary to pick them up. Sometimes you pick up a polished opal and it will just squirt out from between your fingers and end up on the floor across the room. You won't know where it is. Alright, so here's some rough opal. I have several samples and we're going to go through these in particular. I intend to tell you how much I paid for each one of these. We'll weigh them, see how much their carat weight is when they're rough. We'll sand them down and polish them up, and then weigh them up and find out what their final weight is. And no doubt some of these will crack or fracture or for some reason will not turn into jewel grade opal. So that is always a risk when you're doing opal. Okay, further on over here, I have a syringe filled with water for rinsing off an opal stone that's covered with watery dust, and brushes for brushing off an opal. And then over here is the polishing kit. It's a bag of cerium oxide and a piece of leather in which the cerium oxide powder and water is mixed together, and the opal is basically polished on the leather. It's a very interesting process, and it sure looks nice when you get an opal fully polished. All right, so the only other thing I'd like to add right now is we're going to be using mostly Ethiopian Wheeler opal. That's what the A, B, C, and D bags across the top there are. The bottom bag is a Australian opal. It's quite different. The 4 bags on the top with the Ethiopian opal, that opal is called hydrophane, and its primary feature is that it absorbs water, and when it does, the color disappears, the rock turns transparent, except for the sand and the mother rock, and you won't actually be able to see the colors until the stone dries out, and that takes a couple days. It'll turn milky white the first day, and on day 2 and 3 the white will fade and the colors will start coming back. You want to be careful not to heat an opal to remove the water because that will crack it. Now the Australian opal, this one here, is not a hydrophane. It's quite solid and water does not permeate it. So that makes it a different kind of stone, much harder and much more dense. Therefore, it takes a lot longer to sand down by hand. The value is also quite different. So there you go. That's a basic overview of a opal carving kit as I formulated it. And from time to time we get a very odd shaped opal, in which case I'll break out the Dremel tool and use it to help me carve it. These 5 opals are examples of stones where I couldn't use the whetstone to carve them. I needed to use the Dremel for carving and polishing parts of the stones. Alright, so we're going to start with this A package. That's going to be the first one that we're going to cut, and we're going to go ahead and weigh that. So I'm going to use my scale here, turn it on, and reset it to carat weight, CT. There we go. So see if we can get that into focus there. Okay, so that's carat weight, and this will measure to 1/100th of a carat. And forgive me for the camera work here. It's one hand holding the camera while the other is holding picking up the stones. Okay, so I've got the stones out of the package. And what do we have? 12.4 carats. All right. So let's see. Last time I weighed these, I had 12.6. So they've lost weight. Okay, so let's take a look at these. Nice green one there. This one. There's kind of a nice blue to it. I see with this one some green and some red. Let's see with this one. Okay. It's got some red and some green. A little bit. Okay, let's see about this one. Okay, I see some red and some green in that one too. That's pretty nice. Let's take a look at this blue one. It's got some nice color. I do like the blue. It's got quite a bit of sandstone on it. Alright, and this one here, a lot of green. See a little bit of red, a little bit of yellow. So, pretty nice rock. Okay, and with everything back on scale, it's back at 12.4 carats. Alright, so we're doing a before weight. And let's see. I'm curious what, let's say this blue one weighs. Let's see. Okay, so we're back at 0. Let's drop that on. Okay, so that's 3 carats. Alright, so we'll use this one here as a sample. You know, perhaps I'll measure or weigh one of the others. Let's see. This one. It's very odd shaped. Alright, so let's weigh this one. Okay, 3.4 carats. Alright, so we have a starting weight for these two. You know, they're, quite frankly, too easy to lose track of. Once they start getting wet and going transparent, can't really tell which one's which. So we're just going to use these two to track how much weight can potentially come off of these. So we got a starting weight of 3 carats for this one. 3.4, I think that's what it was. Yep. 3.4 for that one. All right. So that's the first set that we're going to work on here. So next video we'll start setting up the whetstones and get to work actually carving some opal. Well, I guess I lied a bit in that last clip. The next video is actually going to be about how to purchase rough opal. If you're just a beginner like I am, I've learned quite a lot and I want to pass some of it along.